This video is about Project 10 specifically, and I will state that it is important before watching this video you really should read the instructions, because this video is only going to hit the high points of the instructions and not give all of the little details. So if you're watching this video and you haven't read the instructions yet, I will recommend either you stop and do that, or you rewatch this video after you look at the instructions, because the full information you need are in the written instructions, and this is just going to comment on some of the specific concepts that I think are particularly important. This particular project is completed as part of a group. You've been assigned to a group. I've tried to sort of mix and match different students, and each group will have 3 to 4 students in it. I need to have a minimum of 3 people working to make it viable. Some groups may have a student assigned who decides not to participate, but if you have at least 3 participating students, you have enough to do the work. And I'll talk more about letting me know who's participating and who's not later on, and about how you will work and how you can collaborate different means a little bit later on. You'll be doing 2 things. You'll be writing a grant proposal letter from the Academy of American Poets to the National Endowment for the Arts to meet the criteria for a media arts grant from that organization. You'll also be creating some sort of visual presentation that has a different audience. This is aimed at the Academy of American Poets Board of Directors, basically to get them on board with whatever this concept is for a new project that you're going to propose. So you're proposing the same project, but you're proposing it to 2 different groups of people and through 2 different methods. The grant proposal letter will need to be 2 to 3 pages long, with an additional page for your reference list. So collectively it will then be 3 to 4 pages long. You will have to do research. You will need at least 5 outside sources in your to support your proposal, and you'll need to cite those sources using APA format. The body of your letter is going to have 6 sections, and these are the 6 sections you need to include, and you're going to need to label those sections with headings. So one example of that kind of thing is illustrated in the textbook on pages 543 and 544. Although the document is formatted as a memo and you're going to be formatting your document as a letter, you can see how they've used section headings to organize the information. In addition, there are sample proposal letters uploaded in the sample documents folder of Blackboard Learn. And while these aren't perfect examples of proposals, they may have gotten different grades, they're basically showing you what your proposal needs to look like. A really successful proposal is going to need to refer to the grant program's guiding principles. So the link is in the assignment instructions. Obviously you can't click on the link in this video, but you can click on the link in the assignment instructions and visit the web page. This is a real grant opportunity that the National Endowment for the Arts runs. Now, they've got all kinds of different other stipulations that you have to do to really apply for this grant. You're not doing any of that. You're just going to write a letter describing your proposed activity or intervention. But you will need to look at the material at the arts.gov website that explains the kind of projects that they're looking for, and also that explains the organizational goals and values. Because as you know, you have to be audience oriented, and especially in this case, you're writing a proposal letter to this entity. You've got to show that you understand what it is they are into. So you will need to reflect those organizational goals, and you'll need to reflect the correct kind of project in your proposal letter. One thing that you won't want to do, though, is talk about all this brouhaha with the YMCA. That may be the catalyst for the Academy of American Poets deciding to try something new and different. But you don't need to talk about that to the NEA. They don't really care, and you wouldn't want to focus on anything that reflected in any way negatively on your organization. So that's in the background of your mind, perhaps, but it doesn't need to be in the proposal itself. What you do need to consider as the problem that your proposal is solving is what is it that makes Americans not so likely to be interested in poetry. So every proposal has to solve a problem, right? The problem is not the thing with the YMCA. The problem is, how can we get more poetry out to underserved populations? So you might think a little bit about this with your group members, thinking about, if you personally don't read poetry, why is that? Is it because you're too busy with school and work? Is it because poetry just seems boring to you? It's not relevant to the concerns of your life, at least not the kind of poetry you were exposed to before. So try to think about what would get you interested, and then that might be something that could help you understand what kind of thing you might propose in your proposal to get an audience interested. One of the most important things to keep in mind as you write your proposal are the requirements stipulated at the NEA's website for this particular grant opportunity. So you will have to have those in mind, not only as you select the ideas that you want to pursue, but as you discuss them in a persuasive manner, because you need to tap into the organizational language about the kind of proposed activities they will fund and the reason they fund those activities. You'll want to think about staffing that would be appropriate to this particular project. So you'll visit the Academy of American Poets webpage and go to their staff page and identify maybe 2, 3, 4 at the most staff members who would be likely to be involved in this kind of project. And you'll want to bring out the skills and expertise that are relevant to the project that you're proposing. And this is part of how you show that your organization is well suited to take on this activity and that the particular staff members are qualified to do a good job of it. So you won't want to just do an info dump. You've only got about a paragraph to discuss staffing, but you'll want to be selective about who you choose and what you say about those people. You'll also want to ask for a specific yet realistic amount of money. So you'll have to do enough research that you can determine roughly how much money it takes to do the thing you're proposing. So if you're proposing to create an app, you'll need to figure out how much it costs to create an app. If you're proposing to have an event at a particular venue, you'll need to figure out what does it cost to book that venue, what does it cost to rent AV equipment for the event that you're doing. So you'll have to do that kind of research. I don't need granular, spreadsheet level details of this, but it does need to be realistic enough that whoever's looking at this proposal is going to say, yeah, this sounds legit, as opposed to, wow, these people are living in fantasy land if they think it only costs $2,000 to have a 24-hour television broadcast, which is actually a proposal I got one time. So do enough homework to know roughly what it costs to do the thing that you're proposing. You're going to have to do research. The assignment requires at least 5 sources, and you'll want research that's credible. Don't just do a simple Google search and call it a day. The next lesson for next week, we'll talk more about research, but do expect to research either the problem that you've identified and established why it's a problem, or research the solution. The thing that you're proposing, is there evidence out there that this is a good idea? Is there evidence about how it can be implemented? So there's different ways that research can be applied. You will need to cite your sources using APA citation format, and that is also something that will be talked about in next week's video lecture. And you'll need to have some sort of timeline. So if you're proposing a particular event, when is this event happening? Specify a date, specify any intervening dates that are important to the preparation for the event. If you're proposing a new technology that you're trying to produce? When will this technology be ready? What are the different sort of benchmark dates in the timeline of the creation of that technology? So that's what we mean. If I read your proposal and I have no idea when anything is happening, that's a problem. So a successful proposal letter will first and foremost show that you understand the NEA's needs. Although the letter is about your organization seeking money to do something you want to do, you have to show that your goals are in line with the NEA's goals and that your proposal will tap into their values. So one way you demonstrate this is you use language from the NEA's own website, just bits and pieces. Maybe they use phrases like underserved populations or developing community, or just anything that you see that you can sort of cherry pick some of those words and phrases that show that you understand what they want to do as an organization and you're doing the same thing with your proposed activity or intervention. Make sure you're being persuasive, and mostly your persuasion will be evident through supporting your claims, supporting the problem that you've established, and supporting the solution that you would like to use. Make sure to illustrate that your plan is sound. One way you do that is to show that the people that will be working on this project are good people, that your organization has experience in similar types of activities, and also your research that may show that the thing that you're proposing is something that has been tried elsewhere with good results. This point kind of gets to what I said before. You will need to illustrate the quality of your project's organization and management and the qualifications of the staff. So you'll need to demonstrate that your organization is the right group to do this job, in part by showing that you have successfully done similar types of projects, at least projects of similar scope. You'll need to show that your organization has a good idea of how long it will take to do the project and that you can do it in a manner that is not cost prohibitive. By using good grammar and mechanics, you add credibility to your writing. You show that you are legit, so to speak. And when you are able to convey information clearly and fluently, you help the reader understand what it is you're talking about readily. So the information on this slide and on the previous slide are the main criteria that will be used for grading your proposal letter. So you'll want to keep those in mind as you craft your letter. Now the presentation, as I said, is presenting to a different audience the same concept. So whatever it is that you want to do with this grant money, if you get it, you've also got to convince your organization's board of directors that this is time for something new and different. And so you are creating a visual presentation of some kind that you would show to the board of directors. Most groups, to be honest, choose to do a PowerPoint presentation, but there are other options. Anything that is visually oriented, which could be just another thing like Prezi, another kind of presentation software. It could be something like a brochure or a short booklet, or it could be a video that you've made. If you do make a video, it should not be longer than 5 minutes, however. You'll need to really have it clear in your mind that this is a different audience from the letter. So although you're proposing the same activity, you're focusing on different information. Your proposal to the NEA may have had to stress the benefits of poetry, for example. But the board of directors for the Academy of American Poets is already a big believer in the benefits of poetry. They don't need to be convinced about that. Maybe they need to be convinced about why this new technology would actually be helpful, or how it will help the organization get out of its financial difficulties. So this audience has different information needs, so you won't be using all of the same information, just some of the same information, or emphasizing different portions of it. So as it says here, the board of directors wants to know that your idea is a good fit for the organization. So you'll need to think about what's your organization's mission and how does what you propose fit that mission. Also, remember that the board of directors is not the same as the staff. You used staffing information from the poets.org website as part of creating your letter to the NEA. But the board of directors are different people. They would know some of the staff, but the board of directors are usually volunteers who are community leaders, people who are perhaps patrons of the arts, local business people who are donating their time and expertise. They are not themselves poets, probably, but they love poetry. So if you've got a group of people, probably middle-aged people who are reasonably financially secure, they may be a little old-fashioned, right? So maybe they need to know why this new stuff that you're proposing is cool. So your visual presentation will need to show that you understand the board of directors' needs and concerns. For example, if your presentation doesn't mention that you're seeking grant funding for this, you have not shown that you understand some of the board of directors' concerns. They want to know where the money for this is going to come from. And when you can say you're getting the money from a grant, you've shown that you understand some of this concern. Demonstrate how the project will fit the organization's mission. So you'll want to take a look at the Academy of American Poets mission and think about that. You'll want to illustrate the workability of the plan generally. That this is something that's doable and something that will bring benefits to the organization. You'll want to be persuasive in how you put this together. Don't assume that they will understand it or like it when they first hear about it, so make sure you're sort of selling your concept to them. And because this is a visual presentation, it does need to have visual appeal. So not just, crappy Microsoft Office clip art, things that actually look good, whether that's photographs or, your choice of just document design generally. This is a visual presentation, so it has different needs. Here are some general tips that apply to Project 10 overall. You can divide up your group's work however you want, and I recommend that you emphasize everyone's strong points. So when you get together online or in person and talk about this, talk about what you're each good at. The person who's really good at writing should probably be the person who is the final editor for the letter that you put together, because you don't want your letter to sound like 3 different people wrote it. Someone who's really good at technology might be the person who can put the information that someone else collects into a visual presentation. I don't care how you divide up the work. You have to collaborate to determine that, but I definitely recommend that you work to your strengths. So don't feel like you just have to divide everything even Steven. Get people doing what they are best at. Most of you will probably meet online because this is an online class. You will need to a certain extent, use the discussion tool in Blackboard Learn at least once a week. That gives me a chance to make sure everyone's participating. But other than that, you can use any other means that you want to communicate, whether it's email exchanges, things like Skype or FaceTime, online chats. You can meet in person. I just recommend that if you meet in person, you keep things safe, meet in public places, no dark alleys at night, meet in the library, meet at a coffee shop. Sometimes if that's convenient, you can get a lot done in a face-to-face meeting, but I have collaborated on group projects many times, internationally even, and you can get all the work done through distance technologies. You will need to post at least one time a week, each member, to the group's discussion forum in Blackboard Learn. That's because I can peek in there and just make sure that everyone is there. You don't have to use it all the time, although you can, you're welcome to. But I am requiring this as a way to monitor participation, and that way I can tell if there's someone who hasn't checked in with the group. They won't get any credit. As it says, if you haven't posted to the group discussion by October 22nd, you may be cut from the group. Now, if you've got a good reason you can't do that, and you let me know about that, then we'll work that out. But if you just are not responsive, then you will be removed from the group. If maybe people do respond by October 22nd, but as time rolls on, they're not doing what they were assigned to do by the group, maybe you ask them to do some research and they haven't done any research, or they were asked to put together a presentation, but they haven't done that, you need to let me know. If someone is totally non-participating, they won't receive any credit for the group's work. But sometimes, it's different. It's a little kind of in between. It's not all or nothing. If there are problems getting in contact with people or problems with people responding in a timely fashion, do let me know about those problems. You will want to submit the grant proposal letter, which will be a word process document, and the visual presentation, which could be a PowerPoint or a PDF or a link to a video, as two separate things. So each group Dropbox will have two different things uploaded to it. I only need one copy of each document per group, so I recommend that your group establishes someone to be the official uploader of each document. So it could be the same person for both elements, or one person could be responsible for uploading the letter and another person responsible for uploading the presentation. And then I recommend you designate another member of the group to make sure that first person did it. And if they don't, you can make sure that you're not late. I do not need multiple copies. I just need one copy of each, but you probably will want to have some fail-safes about this. So if someone forgets, someone else can do it. Obviously, Project 10 is something that takes about 3 weeks to do. So you will not be submitting anything for Project 10 this week, except for checking in at least once in the group discussion tool so that I know that you are actively engaged with your group. You'll also want to begin communicating with your group, whether it's in that discussion tool or some other way, how you want to do this. You'll want to start by thinking about ideas. Ideas are really the hardest. If you have questions about whether an idea is workable, you can post to the questions discussion forum, or you can email me. I will be checking in with the group discussions, but I may not check in frequently enough that I would see questions on a day-to-day basis in the group discussions. So if you want to, get me more quickly, you probably need to post to the questions forum or email me, because I do check those every single day. So you'll need to be collaborating with your group and be thinking about this, because you've got about 3 weeks or so, and you don't want to wait until the last week. Now, there is an assignment due this week, which is discussion 3. This is another ethics-based discussion. This time there's no outside reading. There's no linked reading selections like there were to the first 2 discussions. There's just a brief description in the discussion instructions of the situation, and then you just answer the question, the discussion prompts there. The word count requirement for this discussion is a little bit longer than the previous. It's 400 to 600 words. So many of you were already writing about that many words, but those of you who were skating closer to the 300 mark, you're going to need to write a little bit more this time. And of course, organize your discussion into topical paragraphs and make sure it's edited and proofread. For our next lesson, you'll want to read Chapter 7 in the textbook, which is about research, and take a look at a document I've uploaded in the handouts folder of Blackboard Learn about APA citation, because next week's lesson will focus on research and citation, especially in light of Project 10. Now, Project 10 itself is not due until November 12th, so you don't have to worry about that, but you do need to be working on it so it doesn't creep up on you. And if you have questions about Project 10, post them sooner rather than later to the questions forum so that I can dispel any misunderstandings. Otherwise, I will catch you guys next week.